Okay, we're live. I'm here with my buddy Cody. I'm going to have him introduce himself, and then we're going to hop into some discussion on hockey and baseball. So, Cody, go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're at, where you've been, and anything relevant.
Hey guys, so I'm Cody Marean. I'm the currently the head athletic trainer with the Jacksonville Icemen of the ECHL. We're affiliated this year with the Sabres, Buffalo Sabres, and the Rochester Americans. Um, Before here, I spent 3 years working with Chris with the Sox. Spent a handful of years working back home in Maine at a all guys boarding school, and decided to get back into pro sports, and hockey's where I kind of found my way in. So
I'm super
excited to be
excited
here.
for this one. Yeah, I'm a hockey guy at heart, and I don't have a lot of connections in the hockey world, so maybe this will lead to some cool stuff. So first, anybody that is unfamiliar with the layout of hockey, you said you're in the ECHL. Like, what does that
Yeah.
look like in
So
terms of like structure?
so the ECHL is essentially double A in baseball. So we send guys. We're affiliated, like I said, with the Buffalo Sabres. They're our top team. They send guys down to Rochester. Rochester will send guys down to us, and likewise work our way back up. Um, it's something a little different in regards to hockey. It's kind of roster wise at this level is more similar to like the G League in basketball, where we sign a handful of our own guys who are under Jacksonville Icemen contracts. And then we'll have a handful of guys who are on either NHL or AHL deals who are younger, want to get more minutes played, so they'll come down and play with us. Um, like right now, I think we have six guys on our roster right now that are on AHL deals. A handful, we have a couple guys who have played NHL games. So you kind of get a broad range of everything. But our rosters are definitely more set up towards more like a NBA G League, where we have our own contracted guys and guys contracted with NHL and AHL deals. So kind of different from baseball in that realm, where baseball we were all Sox guys. You didn't have guys that were just signed with, say, the Greenville Drive or something like that. So everybody was the Red Sox employee, which was different at first for me to get used to, but now it's kind of cool. So you know who you're going to be, you know who you're going to have all year long, and don't really have to worry about them getting called up. So
Yeah, that was one of the things. I had gone to a game in Fort Myers. Obviously, we're in spring training there, and
yep,
I had seen some of the guys that were playing had like legit NHL time, and they were a little
right,
older. And then some of the younger guys, I'm like, oh, okay, this guy like just recently got drafted, or like.
right,
So I was curious how the contract situation worked. Can the guys that are signed, like specifically with Jacksonville, get
yep.
their contract selected?
Yeah, so we can. It actually happened earlier this year. We had a handful of guys get called up to Rochester because they had a handful of injuries. And one of our guys who was on contract with us, they asked if they could bring him up. So we essentially loaned him to Rochester for the time being, and then he got sent back down when their guys got healthy again. So yeah, you can get called up when you're on a ECHL deal. It's just you could get called up by any team. So it's in that realm, it's kind of cool where, hey, I'm on an ECHL team. If I play good enough and someone, I don't know, last year we had a guy played well. He was on an ECHL deal and got called up from, he's in San Diego now, then signed a 2-year deal in San Diego with part of the Anaheim affiliate. So you never know when when you're down in the coast, as they call it. It's a little, you don't know where you're going to end up. So
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I know before we started this, we were talking a little bit, and it sounds like there are some similarities to professional baseball. And obviously, you have the experience in pro ball and now in pro hockey. So, like, what does your daily schedule look like, your weekly schedule, your travel, and then, like, how does that
right.
compare to your experience in baseball?
Right. So daily schedule, I mean, we're playing anywhere from 3 to 4 games a week. If we're lucky, we only have a couple games, but most of it typically play Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Um, like right this week we're playing Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. We played Tuesday in Savannah, then bust up. We're in Norfolk, Virginia right now, playing up here Friday, Saturday. But I'd say like on a normal practice day when we're at home, we'll practice at 10:30. Guys are off the ice by 11:30, 12 o'clock. They'll come in and do post-practice treatment and stuff like that. And then I'm usually walking out of the rink by 1:30-ish. So one of the perks definitely is you're not at the field or at the rink all day long like you are at baseball. So, and for me, I think it's awesome. Like down in Jacksonville, you can go to the golf course at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So my golf game hasn't gotten any better being down here, but it's actually might get worse. There's too much water for me. But no, it's definitely, I think time wise, there's a lot less than baseball. So like on a game day, we'll practice today's a little weird. We're gonna skate at 1. Then we'll be done for the day. So we'll probably be leaving here by 2:30, 3 o'clock ish. On a normal game day, we'll skate at 10 or 11. I'll go home for a couple hours, kind of change and take a little pregame nap, and then head back. If we're at home, I'll head back around 3:30. Games at 7, and we're usually out of the rink by 10:30, 11. So it's definitely way less time consuming, in my opinion, than baseball. Definitely don't have many 14, 15-hour days on my schedule. When I do, it's usually there's travel involved. So
yeah, any of my people that are listening that are baseball people are probably super envious of you with the schedule.
Last year I went down, we played down in Fort Myers, and I went and grabbed dinner with Chadwick and Cooch, and we were kind of having the same conversation, and they're like, how do I need to get into hockey? Like, so I like it. It's so much better. Like guys, it's so similar in some ways to baseball. Like the guys are very similar, like personality wise. The biggest thing I think is that time difference. Though I remember last year when I first got down here, I had no clue what was going on in hockey. Like I worked prep school hockey at my last job, and we had during training camp last year, we skated at like our first practice was at like 10 or 10:30 in the morning. Guys were done. We were like, it was probably 1 o'clock. Everybody was out, and I was standing with our strength coach, and I was like, he's been in Jacksonville for 6 years now. And I was like, okay, what time do we come back for like second session? And he just looks at me and starts laughing, and it's like, yeah, we don't do that down here. So I was like, it felt super weird and like super awkward to be done the day by 2 o'clock, but I wouldn't change it. So I don't know if it's different. Obviously, it might be a little more. Those days might be obviously a little longer at the NHL or AHL level, but guys down here, they get free golf, so they're trying to get out of the rink as quick as they can. So
yeah, super envious. And obviously I played hockey my whole life, so like the game itself is a lot of fun for me. So I've always been curious, like how the hockey day looks, how the soccer day looks, the basketball day. Like, so for me, this podcast is good for that, just to talk to people and see what things are like. And in terms of like injuries and treatment that you're doing, like what kind of common things are you seeing in hockey that are either similar or different compared to baseball?
Right. So I've noticed it's very similar. Like last year was a big shoulder year for us. We had it's a lot more like traumatic injuries than there was in baseball. I think we had 3 or 4 dislocations in a matter of like 2 months. So we were like panic mode. Like, what do we need to do to like, how are we going to fix this? And this year it's been a lot better. Our strength coach and I kind of worked through some things and added stuff into like we're adding rehab into everybody's workout now. So like we had a guy earlier this year had and every team's different. Me and Murph, our strength coach, this is year 2 with us together, but we've both been in pro sports for a handful of years. I think I'm one of the oldest ATs in our division, which is kind of weird. Everybody kind of reaches out to me like, hey, what do you do in this situation? I was like, I don't know. I've only been doing hockey for 2 years. Like, but I think a lot of guys, like new guys we have coming in, have younger, not as like their staff isn't as, I'll use the word seasoned as we are. So we're adding, this one kid specifically had an MCL injury, and he comes up to me and goes, and I was standing with our strength coach at the time. He goes, when are we going to start doing rehab? And I just looked at him. It's like, you've been doing it, but we've just kind of put it all in your workouts with Murph. And he wasn't ready for that. So we're trying to keep things quick and easy for these guys. And this one kid got back. He's a goalie MCL. You need your MCL. That's like the one ligament you need as a goalie. He was good to go in like a week and a half. So I think between the two of us, we've been doing the whole pro sport thing long enough, and we've worked through different problems, or not problems, but we've kind of changed the way we've done things, each of us. Like, I've learned so much from him over the past year. And I feel like I've taught him a lot just from my 3 years with the Sox. Like, most of what I'm doing now is stuff that I learned in spring training, or I learned working with the ATs that I worked with back in 2014, 15, and 16. So it's injury-wise, it's very similar in regards to like the maintenance part of it. Obviously, injuries here are a little more traumatic. We have guys getting stitched up in between periods and then coming back on the ice and stuff like that. So other than that, it's injury-wise, it's very similar, which was weird at first to get used to. I didn't expect it to be as similar.
Yeah, hockey players are a different breed when it comes to injuries. My favorite thing in hockey is like there's basically 3 injuries, like lower body, upper body, and concussion. Yeah. And like that's all you get listing wise. But you mentioned like the skills from baseball transferring over, and I think regardless of where you're at, I think the skills that you learn in like high performance settings like can transfer over in some way. 100%. I think you said like the guys are very similar and the attitudes are similar, and like the way they act, like being able to interact with like high level athletes, whether it's pro baseball, pro hockey, whatever. Right. Like I think that is a really valuable skill that only comes with just being around, and like you said, being seasoned a little bit, and like knowing that they're going to try to get under your skin. You can't take it too seriously. Like they all mean well. It's just like, they like to get a laugh and kind of like rile you up a little bit. Right. And it's just the finer points of like understanding the new schedule, or like the travel, or like the game situations. Like, I think that's the biggest like unknown when you go from like one sport to the other sport, at least in my mind anyways.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That like there was definitely, so when I started last year, was just getting used to the handful of differences that there were. Now I think it'd be weird going back to baseball. If I ever would get back into baseball, it'd be miserable.
Yeah, I've thought about like what my life would look like outside of baseball, and then sometimes I'm like so nervous of like I have no idea like where I would even start with this schedule. But then I'm like, I've worked with high level guys for a long time now. Like I understand the training principles, and like you said, you talk with your strength coach there. Like the collaboration between the medical staff, between the coaching staff, like that's going to be the same no matter where you go. Like good training is good training. Like good practice in the athletic training room is good practice in the training room. Like it doesn't necessarily matter specifically like the sport. Obviously, there are the little intricacies, but at least in my mind, like if you know how to train well or you know how to treat well, like those skills are going to transfer over, and then you'll
Right.
learn the other stuff
100%.
along the way.
100%.
Yeah. How about in the off season for you? Obviously, you know what the off season looks like in pro ball. Like, what does that look like for you in hockey?
Yeah. So really, it's like we'll have, if we do have guys who have like off-season surgery, I'll kind of follow up with them. A lot of them try to go home and get that done. So it's working with their doctors and their PTs back home. Most of the time, I'm on the phone with our insurance guy dealing with insurance claims and stuff like that. So I'm sure it's very similar in baseball, but we're not sending them down to Fort Myers to JetBlue to do rehab all summer long. We kind of, at our level, will, depending on what it is, we'll let them go home, and I go home, I fly or I drive home, and then kind of just work from home as needed. So there's not. This past summer was pretty heavy on. I was on the phone with our insurance guy quite a bit, dealing with this, that, and the other, but it's all administrative stuff, basically, making sure everybody's actually showing up to their PT appointments and stuff like that. So,
In the beginning, we talked about like Rochester and Buffalo being above you. Is there like opportunity for advancement within organizations, like in a position like yourself? Is that something that like you get that and that's kind of like what you ride with for a while in your career? Like, how does that work in hockey?
yeah, so I'm honestly still trying to figure that out. I feel like I have a pretty good relationship with the ATs in Rochester. So if one of them were to go up to Buffalo or one of them were to move on, I feel like I'd have at least have a common ground. Like, hey, I know your system, you know me. Like, potentially could move up there. Um, Really, we had a guy in AT in our division last year. He did AT in Fort Myers with the Everblades, got a job with Columbus. So he's with the Blue Jackets this year. Not affiliated with them, just kind of, I think hockey's, and like I said, still trying to figure this out. I think hockey's more of a who you know type of thing. Everybody goes to P hats over the summer and kind of mingles and talks to everybody. I didn't go last year, but this year it's something that I definitely want to try to go to. And as much as I love Jacksonville, I want to, like everybody wants to move up. So I think it's this off season will be interesting for me, just kind of seeing how those little intricacies, like you said, work. Moving up, getting to know people. Really, I think a lot of it's just getting your name out there. So
Yeah, at the time that we're recording this is like baseball winter meetings time.
right,
And
yeah.
I didn't go to Nashville this year, but you know how that goes usually. But yeah, that's the one thing for me is like I said, I'm probably a hockey guy at heart, and I just never knew where to start with that. Like baseball was always so clear to me. A couple of my mentors had worked in pro ball, and it was like very straightforward. Like you go in the minor leagues, you do a good job, you move up the system,
You work your way up,
and
right?
eventually, like if you're in the right place at the right time, you end up in the big leagues. But hockey, I was like, I don't even know where you start. I don't know where they post jobs. I don't know how to get my foot in the door. So I was like, I'm going to pursue baseball because I still, you know what I mean? I love baseball. I played in college, but it was like hockey was always there in my mind. I just never knew, like, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know how to get into the game. I didn't
Right.
know what the system looked like, if there were strength coaches all the way through, ATCs, you know, like I just didn't know what I didn't know. And baseball was like very direct, like start
Yeah.
here, do a good job, move up, and eventually you get here. So
Yeah,
um,
it's definitely different in compared to baseball. I know, like I'll talk to, like I just talked to, before I got on this call with you. I was talking to Norfolk's AT. So he kind of started working in juniors. So he got a job at in Dubuque, working with the junior team there. and then took a job in Adirondack, and then is now here. I see a lot of ATs that have worked at the collegiate level that then come to the East Coast Hockey League. It's like the next level up from the NCAA for smaller NCAA schools. I feel like if you're like a BC or a BU, you can kind of move. Those bigger hockey schools can expedite that process a little quicker. A lot of people ask me how I got in, and I don't know. I just applied and got a phone call a couple of days later and kind of started that process. I think like I'm one of the older guys in our league. So I think me just having that experience in pro sports helped out. But I didn't know anybody. I still don't know people. I'm meeting people every week, which is something that's been is the reason why I want to go to that P-Hats meeting in the summer, to get to know people. Like I said, get my name out there and kind of start the process of moving up. But
yeah, that was going to be my next question, was how you got in, but you already answered it for me. So.
Yeah, it's actually like I was working at the all guys prep school up at Bridgeton Academy up in Maine, and was there for 5 years. Ended up like I was head AT, assistant athletic director, and then I just needed a change. Got a job at Jacksonville University, which is just a small D1 school. And then one of their ATs showed me the job description or the job posting for the Icemen. And I'm like, sure, why not? Didn't think anything would happen, and then got a call. So it was just, I think it was, like you said, right place, right time. And then I don't know, part of me feels like everything happens for a reason. So I think me going and working at JU, I never would have even seen this job description. So I don't know. It's just been, my journey to hockey is definitely not normal. So
Yeah, that's okay though. I mean, we're all unique in that aspect, but
right.
before we wrap this up, is there anything else like hockey versus baseball wise, or anything that we haven't hit on that you'd like to just kind of mention before we close this one down?
No, I think we kind of hit on everything. It's like I said, over the past couple of days since you asked me to kind of hop on this call, I've been kind of thinking about it. We had a 8-hour bus trip yesterday that I got a lot of time to think about things, and like looking back, I'm so appreciative of my time with Boston. I definitely wouldn't be here without getting that job there. And it's like the guys will ask me, I know I kind of mentioned it before, but I have the conversation once a month with like a new guy who comes in or whatever, and they find out that I worked with the Red Sox. It's like, I didn't work with the Red Sox, so I was in the minor leagues, so like would pump the brakes a little bit. But it's always how different. I said, obviously it's different. You guys are skating around with razor blades on your feet, but it's very similar. It's they're more traumatic injuries here, but even that is a minimal at times. So it's similar, very similar, but obviously very different, just the two different sports.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man. I like I said, I'm a hockey guy at heart, and so for me, it's cool to kind of get an inside scoop and a little bit of insight into what goes on there. And obviously, I appreciate our friendship along the way, and maybe someday we'll see each other across the rink. Yeah. And
I think we play down in Fort Myers in March, so during spring training. So we'll have to get you to a game.
Yes, I would love it. I would love it. So especially if it's dollar hot dog night, those are the best.
Yeah, you just can't wear any Everblades gear. I won't let you in.
That's fine with me. That's a good compromise. So I appreciate it, and we'll definitely talk soon. Good luck with the rest of the season as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.